Can Brayan Bello step up as the number 2 starter for the Boston Red Sox in 2026?
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and currently the host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox Monday through Friday straight to your favorite podcast feed. And want to know the best part? It's all free. So make sure that you tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Locked On Red Sox. As promised, I am going to be continuing my breaking down of each position group from the Boston Red Sox in 2025 as we look towards what will hopefully be a big offseason for the Red Sox. And one of the positions that very much needs to be addressed for Boston this offseason is the starting rotation. Today's episode is all about what the rotation looked like in 2025 and how it could look different in 2026. But one pitcher who could be a wild card in 2026 based on how he performs is Brayan Bello. Is he at the level of being a number 2 starting pitcher? That is real questions that people are asking is what's the ability level and the ceiling like of Brayan Bello? Now, in 2025, he battled some injury early on in the season, so he was activated a little bit late, and he didn't pitch with the Boston Red Sox for the first month plus of the season. I actually spoke with him when he was rehabbing from injury in AAA Worcester, and he talked about how he felt like he could work his fastball a little bit back more into his arsenal and that he'd be able to find success in that way. And in 2024, we saw him struggle once he started to take that out of the arsenal a little bit more because Andrew Bailey, the pitching coach, his mechanism has always been to utilize more off-speed stuff and just utilize the fastball when it feels really necessary. And for Brayan Bello, that was something he struggled with because of how strong his fastball actually was. So his breakdown of pitches in 2025 included a sinker that he used 35% of the time, a sweeper 19% of the time, a cutter 16% of the time, a changeup 15% of the time, and a four-seamer 15% of the time. So obviously the sinker was the pitch he utilized the most, and he still didn't utilize the four-seam fastball as much as he did as some of his other pitches that he has in his arsenal. But when I spoke with him in Worcester, he had said that he wanted the fastball to be mixed in more. And compared to 2024, he did utilize that four-seamer a lot more. In 2024, he used his four-seamer just 5% of the time compared to that 15% in 2025. Now, in terms of his stats, in 2024, he had a 14-8 record with a 4.49 ERA over 30 games started. He threw 162.1 innings that year with 153 strikeouts and a whip of 1.36. Now, those numbers got better in 2025. He went 11-9 with a 3.35 ERA over 29 games that he pitched, and 28 of those were starts. The one that was technically considered a relief appearance was from a game that got suspended and had to resume, and then technically another pitcher had started the game originally when it got suspended, so he was considered making a relief appearance, but he started the game that day. Gets really confusing. But overall, he started. 166.2 innings he threw. So despite the fact that he was injured to start the season in 2025, that's notable because he threw more innings than he did in 2024, which shows that he was pitching deeper into games in the 2025 season. He had less strikeouts this past season than he did in 2024 because he went from 153 strikeouts the year prior to 124 strikeouts this year with a whip that went down, though, of 1.24. So the only thing that was major that he didn't improve on in 2025 was the strikeouts, but he has never been a huge swing and miss guy. He's been a ground ball pitcher primarily, and that's something that I will look to see continue from Brayan Bello going into 2026. Now, looking at his underlying metrics, he still has a major walk problem. He's below average in walk rate in the 41st percentile, averaging about 8.4 walks per outing, which is definitely very much not ideal. He has gotten better over time. In 2023, he was in the 76th percentile in walk percentage. So miraculously that year, he just had more command than he usually does. In 2024, 33rd percentile in walk rate, averaging 9.1 walks. He did cut that down in 2025 to averaging 8.4 walks and being in the 41st percentile. But the point is he's still below average in that category because he does tend to lose his command, which is something that lengthens out his starts because of how deep the Red Sox are trying to push him, but the pitch count goes up quicker and at a more rapid pace than the Red Sox would like it to, which naturally results in him ending up getting pulled earlier than the Red Sox are trying to go for. So while we want length from Brayan Bello, we definitely can get that from him if he is able to find a way to cut down on the walks in 2026 and beyond, truly. Now, diving into some of his other stats, in terms of strikeout percentage, he was in just the 16th percentile for that in 2025. So he does not get a lot of swing and misses. That is definitely something that he's going to need to improve on. His off-speed pitches, he isn't really getting guys to chase as much as he could. He's in just the 37th percentile for chase percentage. So that's another thing that I'm looking at and saying, can he fool guys a little bit more effectively in his off-speed pitches outside the zone? Can he get guys to chase those pitches? That's going to be key for Bello moving forward. He's 84th percentile in ground ball percentage because he is a ground ball pitcher. He generates a lot of weak contact, which is one of the reasons why he's been so successful as a starting pitcher for the Red Sox, because of that ability to generate that weak contact on ground balls. So that's one of his best attributes, and that's something that hopefully will continue going into 2026. So looking at all of those stats, I can't get behind Brayan Bello being a number 2 starter for the Boston Red Sox in 2026. He is definitely pitching at the level of being a number 3 starter, but the problem is he is very inconsistent. He had a very good few months of the season, and then September hit, and he started to really struggle. And we just saw a weaker version of Brayan Bello that was just very much not ideal. So that became an issue down the stretch because the Red Sox were trying to clinch a playoff spot, and Brayan Bello being out there every 5 days and struggling on the mound gave the Red Sox some trouble. So because of the month of September that he had and his general command issues as a whole, it's hard to feel confident in the ability level that he has to truly turn into that number 2 starting pitcher that the Red Sox do need. That's why it really enforces the Red Sox going out and needing to acquire a number 2 starter this offseason, whether that's via free agency or via trade. It's something that absolutely needs to happen. And if I'm the Boston Red Sox, I'm looking at any and all options for proven number 2 starting pitchers, guys who they know can produce at a really high level and that they can pair with Garrett Crochet and not have to worry about it. Because when Brayan Bello's on, he pitches at a really high level. But the problem is that's a big if, too big of an if, to be able to bank on him turning into a number 2. He definitely has that ability down the road, but he's not quite there yet because he just continues to walk guys too much at a high rate, and his inconsistent performances has led to there being doubts about him. So overall, Brayan Bello is certainly somebody who can perform to a number 3 level for the Red Sox, but that's about where it ends for him. So going out and getting a number 2 starting pitcher is going to be crucial. And coming up, what does the Red Sox starting pitching depth look like heading into next season? Prize Picks is a great way to make decisions, but get paid when you're right. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. Just download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. It truly is good to be right. And what's a better combination than being right and winning money? I don't think there really is one. So you might as well jump on it and download Prize Picks today so that you can make money while also continuing to enjoy all of your favorite sports. While we look at the Red Sox rotation, there are certainly positive aspects of it, but there are still some holes, particularly with the fact that they do need a true number 2 starting pitcher to put in this rotation behind Garrett Crochet. Now, Garrett Crochet is definitely a true ace. There's no denying that, no doubt about the fact that he is the guy that the Red Sox are going to turn to long term to be the number 1 starter in this rotation. That is undeniable. When you look back at the trade that the Red Sox made for Garrett Crochet, there's no doubt about the fact that you would do it 10,000 times over. That guy is a true number 1. So what he did for the Red Sox this season really helped mold the rotation into feeling like it was a lot more competitive. Because if you have a guy in your rotation like Crochet, you feel like you have a guy who you can turn to every 5 days and that you can count on no matter what to get the job done. Now, yes, he had a couple rough starts in there, but that's a given. He's not perfect. Nobody is. But overall, he gave the Red Sox everything they needed and more. So he was certainly the best starting pitcher that the Red Sox had, and he's going to continue to be that guy for this Boston Red Sox team. Now, another pitcher who was in an interesting situation is Lucas Giolito. He was a guy who also came back from injury this year. The Red Sox signed him prior to the 2024 season, and he missed the entirety of the 2024 season due to injury. And then he also missed the beginning of 2025 with an injury. So in the season this year, he went 10-4 with a 3.41 ERA over 26 games started and 145 innings pitched. He had 121 strikeouts with a whip of 1.29. So for Giolito, the question mark with him was always going to be, is he going to stay healthy? And that was the key. And then for the majority of the season, he was healthy. Once he was activated from that injury that he had dealt with at the beginning of the season, he then was able to stay on the field for pretty much the entirety of the rest of the season, all the way up until the playoffs, which was a miracle for a guy who has had injury history. So having Lucas Giolito here was really beneficial for the Red Sox because he was able to slot himself in very nicely with Brayan Bello as that number 2 and number 3 behind Garrett Crochet. Now, Brayan Bello is definitely not a number 2 starting pitcher, and neither is Lucas Giolito, but Lucas Giolito, when he was on, was dominant and was truly pitching like a number 2 behind Crochet, arguably even a number 1 sometimes. having that version of Lucas Giolito was great. And then unfortunately, at the end of the season, he dealt with another injury and was ruled out of the Red Sox Wild Card Series roster. So that was just really unfortunate for the team. But having Giolito in this rotation was a game changer because they needed a guy like that to be reliable. Because outside of Garrett Crochet, there were a lot of question marks in this rotation, and he was one of them. But he truly served as a guy who could be very beneficial. Now, he's in a situation right now where he could go in free agency and go elsewhere. The Red Sox probably will give him the qualifying offer for 2026. If he takes that, then the Red Sox could get him in the rotation for the 2026 season, or he goes and he explores other opportunities. Now, if he ends up in the Red Sox rotation in 2026, I would definitely proceed with caution on that because I'm not banking on or assuming that he is going to be at that same level of dominance as he was in 2025. I just have a feeling that he's going to take a step back because primarily due to his health and the fact that his arm is probably going to start to feel a little bit less effective as these seasons go on. It's been a long time since he's pitched a fully healthy season. So from a reliability standpoint, should the Red Sox bank on him being reliable in 2026 if he's in the rotation? Not necessarily. So what they should be doing is plan to have 5 other starters who can each throw every 5 days and be effective. And then if Lucas Giolito is there, they could go with a 6-man rotation, or they could just say, okay, we're going to have Lucas Giolito serve as a multi-inning reliever so that we can manage his arm and how much he's throwing so that he can stay healthy for the rest of the season. That's 100% the move that I'm making if I'm the Red Sox and Lucas Giolito comes back. But I do appreciate what he did for the Red Sox in 2025. I'm just not banking on him being a truly reliable, consistent starter in 2026. Dustin May, who the Red Sox traded for at the trade deadline. This was just utterly disappointing because this felt like a trade deadline in which the Red Sox really needed to make some moves. And while acquiring Steven Matz was a good move, they failed to acquire a power bat that could play first base. And they also really didn't go all out to get that number 2 starting pitcher. I know they made a late push for Joe Ryan from the Twins, but unfortunately that didn't work out because they couldn't reach an agreement at the end, and he didn't end up being traded. And I just have a feeling Craig Breslow was not as willing to part ways with certain guys as people might have thought he was. A lot of people thought for sure that Duran or their outfielder was going to be traded at the deadline. That didn't happen. So they end up with Dustin May very late, right as the deadline was ending. It felt like a desperation move by the Boston Red Sox, and Craig Breslow saying, well, I need to make a move for somebody. Comes over, pitches out of the Red Sox rotation, immediately struggles. Then he was placed on the injured list, and we didn't see him take the mound again. So just feels like it was a waste of a trade, not somebody who really contributed a lot in the rotation, and not somebody that I hope to see get another shot in the Red Sox rotation again, because they can do better than that. They have the resources to make a rotation without him, and they shouldn't be banking on him having a fully healthy and reliable 2026 because he is another pitcher with an injury history. So I'm looking to other pitchers to step up instead of the Red Sox feeling like they can rely on Dustin May. Tanner Houck, who missed most of the season, he made his first few starts of the season, and they were brutal. He was struggling. And it was very uncharacteristic of Tanner Houck because the version of Houck that we saw in 2024 was insanely reliable. A guy who arguably was the Red Sox most consistent starting pitcher at that time because it was pre-Garrett Crochet. So I was excited to see how Tanner Houck would perform in 2025. Goes into 2025, makes his first few starts, just doesn't pitch very well. So then the Red Sox placed him on the injured list and said he needed surgery. He was going to be out the rest of the season. And it's looking like he's going to miss most, if not all, of 2026. So that's not an option of somebody that the Red Sox can rely on in the rotation. So they have to try to compensate for that and figure out who could fill his shoes moving forward, at least for the 2026 season, because the chances of Tanner Houck being in the rotation are incredibly slim or maybe even non-existent. So that's disappointing because I really like the potential of Houck, and I feel like there's so much to be excited about with him, but he needs to be able to perform at a high level. And hopefully the fact that he had his surgery, he's able to take his time to recover, that'll hopefully mean that when he comes back, he's better than ever, because the Red Sox rotation could really use him for sure. Payton Tolle, an interesting name that's with the rotation, because he ended up pitching out of the pen at the end of the season. Now, Payton Tolle is a guy who's still so young. He was called up from AAA really late in the season due to injuries that the Red Sox were facing. He had shown a ton of ability at the AAA level. And the Red Sox said, hey, let's call him up. Let's give him a shot. They did. He started. He looked very, very good in his first start. And then things kind of got a little messy for him after that. So the Red Sox decided, okay, we're going to move him to the bullpen because maybe he'll find more success there. So that's exactly what they did. And the primary reason that he was struggling in the rotation was because he just doesn't have enough pitches yet in his arsenal. He has a really competitive fastball that certainly plays at the major league level. He just doesn't have the off-speed pitches to pair with that is the issue. So the fastball is clearly his best pitch and one that he can definitely leverage at this level, but the off-speed pitches are still lacking. So he needs to continue to develop the off-speed stuff if he wants to find success at the major league level throughout the rest of his career. I really like Payton Tolle. He works hard and he definitely has the potential, and his fastball is going to keep opposing hitters on their toes, but he needs to have more pitches to pair with that, or it's going to be easier for opposing hitters to pick up on him. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle Payton Tolle going into 2026. First of all, is he even going to be here still, or are the Red Sox going to try to package him into a trade this offseason? If he's still here, I could see the Red Sox still continuing to utilize him in a relief role. If he's even with the major league team, I could see the Red Sox deciding that he's going to start the season in AAA so that he can continue to develop. But if they do decide that he is going to be somebody who the Red Sox feel confident in being part of the major league roster to start the season, I definitely see it being more out of the pen than as a starter, just because there's more work that he needs to do. So that's going to be a big question going into this offseason is, where does Payton Tolle fit in? A lot of it depends on the moves that the Red Sox do make. And the value that Tolle has is that he can pitch 2 to 3 innings out of the pen and be fine if he's using primarily the fastball, because he likely won't have to see batters multiple times through as much. If he pitches 2 innings, especially out of the pen, if hitters are only seeing him one time, he could find more success that way. So he's an interesting name to look out for as we progress through this offseason. And coming up, who else could be part of the Red Sox rotation next season? I love FanDuel because it's a great way to make lots of money while betting on your favorite sports. And now the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. The thing that makes FanDuel so cool is that so many different sports can be bet on, and you can make so much money instantly. So check it out today. As we analyze what the Red Sox starting rotation could look like heading into the 2026 season, it's important to note that they have lots of options. Outside of Garrett Crochet and Brayan Bello, there really is a lot of uncertainty as to who else is going to help fill out the rest of that rotation. Connelly Early, a young pitcher who made his major league debut in 2025, has lots of eyes on him. He impressed. He has an expanded arsenal of pitches that he can utilize. I watched him pitch live multiple times, both at the major league level and when he was in AAA. And the reason he's so effective, so young, is because he has more than one pitch that's refined that will allow him to continue to be successful. Now, he has a really good shot of being in the Red Sox rotation to start the season next year because he did a lot in 2025, even though he only made a handful of starts, to prove to the Red Sox that he deserves a shot. Now, when it comes to him, he's definitely the type of pitcher who needs some more experience. It's hard to really know for sure the type of pitcher he's going to be now when he hasn't had that type of exposure that some other pitchers have had. Now, something that Connelly Early really has going for him is the fact that he got postseason experience. He made the start in Game 3 of the Wild Card Series against the Yankees, and although that game didn't work in the Red Sox favor, he still was able to make an impression in that game. So that's definitely something to look forward to with him, is that he now has the playoff exposure so that moving forward, hopefully he can continue to make a splash at that level. But experience is key for him, and what we saw from him was such a small sample size. So that's why I just need more time of seeing him to know where he fits in. But certainly there's a big possibility he could be thrown into the Red Sox rotation as a back-end starter for the 2026 season. Hunter Dobbins, who also got injured during the season but impressed when he was pitching, he's a guy who certainly, if healthy, is likely going to be a favorite to land a spot in that rotation. Now, again, keep in mind, outside of Crochet and Bello, the Red Sox don't really know who's going to hold those other rotation spots. They have that number 2 starting pitcher that they need to go out and get this offseason, and then a 4 and 5 starter is certainly up for grabs. So Hunter Dobbins certainly could fit into that because he had really good stuff for this Red Sox team. He was a guy who had a lot of raw ability to throw the ball really hard and really effectively for Boston. So if he's able to get himself fully healthy, he can definitely be somebody that could do big things for this Red Sox team. And I would not be surprised to see him on the opening day roster as a starter as long as he's healthy by then. And there's a chance he misses part of the season while he's still recovering. So again, going to have to monitor his health, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Dobbins can do because he definitely has a lot of potential to be a strong starter for this Red Sox team. Cutter Crawford missed the entirety of the 2025 season, and people were really wondering what happened to him. But he is planning on being back and healthy for 2026, and he was effective as the Red Sox number 3 starter prior to getting hurt. The question's going to be, how is he going to look when he comes back? How sharp is he going to be? Because it's really hard to know what a pitcher is going to look like when they come back from missing an entire season. And for a guy like Crawford, we need to make sure that he is going to be sharp enough to where he can pitch in the rotation and also that his arm can handle the workload. That could be a situation where the Red Sox maybe consider having him pitch out of the bullpen to start the season. And then if he's feeling good enough, then maybe they move him into the rotation later on. But I'm not banking on Cutter Crawford being a starter for the Red Sox, at least early on in the 2026 season, until they get a grasp of what they actually have with him and what they're dealing with. And then if they like what they see, then maybe move him into the rotation at that point. But I'm picturing Cutter Crawford as a guy who starts the season in the bullpen. There's also Kyle Harrison, who's an interesting one. He made his Red Sox debut late in the season this year and gained a lot of experience primarily out of the bullpen. Now, the Red Sox are still deciding whether they picture Kyle Harrison as a starter or a reliever longer term. I think the goal is for him to eventually be a key starter. So he's somebody who could be in the mix for one of those starting rotation spots. It really feels like Hunter Dobbins, Kyle Harrison, Cutter Crawford, Connelly Early, Payton Tolle, that group is kind of the mix of people that will likely be competing for those 4 and 5 starter roles. And the question is going to be who impresses the most during spring training and who do the Red Sox feel the most confident in throwing every 5 days for this team. And Kyle Harrison has a lot of good stuff, and he's really worked on his secondary pitches in AAA. That was something that he really emphasized that he wanted to work on when I spoke with him in Worcester, and those pitches have really come a long way for him. So he's definitely an option to pitch in the rotation and be a key starter for this team. So I'm interested in seeing how that pans out for him, because maybe he's a multi-inning reliever if things don't work out with him as a starter. So I'm looking to Kyle Harrison to potentially be a key piece for this team, but where is the question. Then there's Patrick Sandoval, who also didn't pitch at all in 2025. There was hope when the Red Sox brought him in that he could maybe come back after the All-Star break. That unfortunately did not happen, so it's really hard to know where he's going to fit in, if at all. Have to keep in mind again that he was injured and missed the whole season, so he likely won't be competing for a starting spot right away, kind of similar to Cutter Crawford. Those could be guys who the Red Sox just feel out where they're at before they decide where they're going to be placed. But there's a lot of guys in that mix up for grabs to potentially pitch in the rotation. Kyle Harrison, Payton Tolle, Connelly Early, Hunter Dobbins. Those feel like the likely options of guys who will compete for those 4 and 5 starter roles. And the question is just going to be, who is it going to be? So that's one of the most fascinating things about this Red Sox team going into this offseason is how their starting rotation will look in 2026. So we'll have to see how that all pans out. But thank you so much for tuning in to Locked On Red Sox and always making it your first listen of every single day. Be sure to check out Locked On MLB also, as well as Locked On MLB Game Night, which is every game, every night, all the way up until a World Series champion is crowned. You can catch our local Locked On experts discussing what happened, including that crazy 18-inning World Series game, which reminded me of the Red Sox 2018 World Series game against the Dodgers. Basically an exact parallel of that and same result. So you can check out Locked On MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever else you listen to podcasts. So make sure you check that out next. Like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.